Now, we talked a little bit about photo and image editing, and you can imagine what this experience looks like on a mobile device, right? Because so many shoppers are buying on mobile. And what we're going to talk about now is having a streamlined mobile experience. Because right now, like we have a mobile apocalypse happening, which is everyone's moving to mobile, but we're not really providing for mobile at the same expectations that everyone has. Would you agree, Nick?
I would say so.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
so you recognized this problem and you said, well, we're a tech company. We can build a product that solves this. And Shogun has been a great tool. We actually use it on our own site for now. We're migrating to Webflow, and it's not your fault. It's our problem. But if you're on Shopify and you're selling products, it's just an easy way to use a WYSIWYG drag and drop editor and adjust product detail pages, adjust blog posts, set up new pages like your About Us or your homepage. And I was able to do all that without a developer. And then sometimes I pay a developer a little bit for some styling or something, but it saves thousands of dollars really for that small, mid, and growth stage business that doesn't want to hire that full-time developer. But we're not going to talk about that today. We're going to talk about something new that Nick launched in the progressive web app space. And I'm going to let you explain what that even means, because I'm sure a few people don't know, and why it's important to merchants and how it's going to increase really conversion rate and add, I would say, to that brand connection when we're talking about speed, page speed.
Awesome. Well, yeah, thank you so much for having me, and super excited to chat, kind of about the future of front end tech. So let me go ahead here. I am going to share my screen, and let's see if I can also get this into presentation mode. All right. Everything's still looking good?
Perfect.
Great. Cool. All right. Excellent. So let's talk about how to increase mobile performance and how front-end technology impacts your revenue. And we'll talk about like new technologies that are available, but also if you're still on a traditional website on Shopify or BigCommerce or what have you, we'll also go over some tips and tricks on how to optimize a traditional website. All right. So again, let's talk a little bit about the importance of mobile e-commerce, right? So mobile e-commerce is clearly on the rise. In fact, about 50% of all e-commerce now is mobile commerce, and that figure is only expected to grow. No surprise there. I'm sure we've all seen the stats whenever it's Black Friday, Cyber Monday, at how much of the sales are mobile, and it's growing every year. So especially for companies on the line that know that their buyer persona, their shopper persona leans heavily mobile, this is definitely a good session to be in attendance for. Okay, so mobile e-commerce on the rise, right? And that creates different expectations. So about 80% of online shoppers who encounter a poor website performance say that they won't return to the site to buy again. When we're talking about performance, that can mean different things, but usually what we're talking about is load time, right? AKA page speed. And here, you got kind of this graphic of the little loading thing. Obviously, it doesn't usually look like that. I think that we are all familiar, being in Safari on our iPhones with the blue bar at the top of the browser there that never seems to quite, get all the way over. And especially if you have only a few bars of cellular reception, you may not see any images on your page for several seconds. Oops, all right, what happened there? But yeah, obviously that type of pain, what does it cause customers to do? Well, it causes them to bounce. Folks are impatient, right? I think that we're living in an ever increasing, here, I'm just going to check the chat real quick. Yeah, I think that we're,
It's just me.
Okay, no worries. Yeah, I think that we're living in a world where people are, increasingly, we're fighting for attention spans. And if you can't get your site to load, folks are leaving. They're going somewhere else, right? Especially if you think of what the user flows might look like. They're probably cruising their Facebook feed, their Instagram feed, they see an ad, they pop in, they start going through your site. If it's not loading quickly, where are they going? They're going back to where the action is, back to Instagram, back to Facebook. So if you have a site that has pages that are slow to load, your bounce rate is probably very high, right? And of course, if your bounce rate is high, it's kind of like, pouring water into a sieve. You might be driving all this traffic to your store only to have it bounce. And the amount of time for you to lose a bunch of your traffic by a strongly increased bounce rate is actually very low. So at 3 seconds of page load time, probability of bounce increases 32%. At 5 seconds, the probability of bounce is at like at 90%, and so on and so forth. So yeah, direct correlation between page speed and bounce rate. And obviously, if you can't keep the traffic on the site, you can't convert them into a sale. So as a result, conversion rate is down. Okay, so half of all web traffic now comes from mobile, right? However, mobile conversion rates are lower than desktop. And so in short, speed equals revenue. And that's not coming from me. That's coming from Google, from Daniel Ahn, Google global product lead for mobile web. So again, this is a very unbiased statement drawing this direct correlation between speed and revenue for e-commerce sites. Okay. So with that in mind, knowing that ever increasing mobile direct correlation between speed and bounce, let's go on a different path for a second and talk about front end, right? Because that's where the page load is occurring. It's occurring on the front end of your e-commerce tech stack, right? And by front end, what I mean is everything that the shopper can see when they're visiting the site, also known as the visual presentation layer, if you're into jargon. Differentiating from the back end. The back end's all the stuff that you do when you log into Shopify or BigCommerce, dealing with your inventory, et cetera, et cetera. So let's talk about the front end and how front end has been traditionally built. Okay, so custom code. Right? You can hire developers and they can custom code your site from scratch, right? Using HTML, CSS, maybe JavaScript, maybe they're custom coding it completely in React or something. But yeah, you can basically get a team of developers, engineers, and they custom code your site from scratch. Another way, and especially familiar to folks on Shopify and BigCommerce, theming, right? Quick development, less customized because you're kind of using, I don't want to say like cookie cutter, because some of them are beautiful. If it's cookie cutter, they're fantastic cookie shapes. A lot of the themes, look great. It's out of the box. It's an out of the box. I mean, what a theme is a bunch of, files of code. If it's Shopify, it's liquid, right? So it gives you the ability to not start from scratch, already have an existing framework, but your ability to customize the theme, unless you're comfortable digging into, the theme files and editing the liquid, if you're on Shopify or BigCommerce, I think it's Stencil, then yeah, it's going to, it's going to be a little, a little tough to customize unless you know code. Okay. So also you've got page builders, and here obviously I'm a little biased. In addition to our new product, Shogun Front End, we of course our Shogun Page Builder product is very much alive and well, and now with over 13,000 merchants on it, and yeah, we love page builders, and Shogun Page Builder is an active roadmap. Page builders are great, right? They allow non-technical people to build pages quickly with drag and drop elements. However, usually you're still kind of confined to, I don't want to say cookie cutter, but unless you know how to code, the out of the box elements that are available from the page builder, right? And in addition to that, with something like Shogun Page Builder or any other page builder that's on Shopify or BigCommerce, it still is operating within the framework of the platform. And we'll kind of go into a little bit later why that can sometimes not be optimal for performance, and how websites generally are not as optimized for performance, mostly speed, as some of these newer technologies. Okay, and the last one, experience managers, right? Also known as like DXPs, digital experience platforms. So experience managers allow companies to organize content management, digital experience, personalization, multivariate testing, all of that within a single platform. This is really popular if you're a very large company. Maybe you're on Salesforce Commerce Cloud, maybe you're on SAP Hybris, Magento. DXPs that you probably heard of, like Adobe AEM, Adobe Experience Manager. You got like Acquia, Episerver, Sitecore, these much larger platforms. But they suffer from very, very steep software as a service fees. They're quite a feat to integrate, and yeah, they're I think, yeah, difficult to integrate, cost a lot of money. Sometimes the feature set can be overkill for some merchants. All right. So that is how front end has been traditionally done for e-commerce. But there's a new wave of technologies that have been coming out. And a lot of them are mobile first. Surprise, surprise. Okay, so let's talk about those, right? So first, you've got native mobile applications, and we're all familiar with native mobile, right? These are applications, that you would actually go into the App Store and you download them, you install them on your phone, and to be honest, they're fantastic. They offer the most fluid experience. Once downloaded on the phone, their performance is phenomenal, right? But the key thing to note here is getting the shopper to download the app in the App Store. It's an enormous barrier, right? I mean, you can go, for some businesses, maybe you're like a meal prep company and somebody's going to be ordering from you all the time, super consistently. You probably might be able to get your customers to install an app. But like if you're in apparel or you're in anything else, getting them to actually go to the App Store, install that app on their phone and give you that phone real estate, it's I don't know, I think it's a challenge for most brands. Okay, so again, native apps, fantastic in terms of performance, barrier to adoption very high. Okay, you got AMP, right? AMP pages are super fast. They're way faster than traditional web pages, but they're best for like static landing pages that don't have things like search and checkout and all of these things that are more dynamic, right? So if you got a static landing page that doesn't require any interactivity, and unfortunately usually e-commerce sites do, AMP is perfect. And it loads lightning fast. It's the pages that get the little preview when you're in Google and you click it, and there's literally zero load time because it's pre-fetched. So they're great, but they're not really a good fit for e-commerce use case. So the third new technology that's come out that's mobile first, also similar to AMP, a Google initiative, is PWA, Progressive Web Application technology. Now, obviously here, I'm a little biased, but I feel like it's really offering the best of both worlds, right? So you basically get a really fast and fluid experience with PWA, and what a PWA is it's basically all the benefit of a native mobile app, but injected directly into the browser, so directly into Chrome or Safari. And the way that it works is, unlike AMP, the first page load isn't instant. It's just a normal page load. But with PWA, during that page load, instead of just fetching the next page, like the home page or whatever, it fetches the entire site. it just basically assumes that you're already going to want the entire site for browsing. So it prefetches the entire thing, which means that after the first load, every load and page click and everything after that is sub-second with a PWA. So yeah, generally you're getting, the benefit of a native mobile application right in the browser. The first page loads normal, but after that, you basically have the whole AMP thing going on with a perceptively 0 seconds load time. Okay, I'm gonna keep on moving. So again, native apps, AMP, PWA. All right. And PWAs are doing amazing work for e-commerce companies. These numbers don't come from us. These come from Google developers. They have a whole library of case studies by different vertical, including e-commerce vertical, where you can go and look up all of these awesome statistics for what PWA has done for some major brands, like West Elm and Lancome. And Pet Love and Flipkart, obviously. But here, if we look at West Elm, they saw a 15% increase in average time spent on site and a 9% lift in revenue per visit. Awesome. Lancome, they saw a 17% increase in overall conversions, 8% increase in conversions on recovered carts via push notifications. Push notifications are another trick that PWA can do, and it's another thing that makes them kind of like a native mobile app. Okay, so big question, of course. If PWAs are so magical and so great, well, then why don't all e-commerce companies have them? It would seem to be the obvious decision to build your site as a PWA. Well, it's super hard. Basically, a PWA isn't like a traditional website. It's a lot more like a piece of software. It's a lot more similar to actually building something like Shogun Page Builder than it would be to building a traditional site. All right, maybe that's an over-exaggeration, but it's not simple. It's kind of like you're doing a software project. So what does it require to build a progressive web application? So you need JavaScript engineers, and they have to know two different JavaScript frameworks. They got to know something like React.js or Vue.js. In addition to that, to do the prefetching trick where everything's loaded and then all the clicks are sub-second, you're also going to need a server-side rendering framework like a Gatsby.js or a Nuxt.js. So you got your devs, they got to know those two frameworks, and they're going to custom code that stuff. Now, you also need to set up your own CDN because at this point you're doing the headless thing, right? You're decoupling, having Shopify or BigCommerce or Magento or Salesforce take the back end. So you need to go ahead and get your own CDN for the front end. And so you can use something, I think like Netlify is like kind of the, one of the most popular options. You could also use like Fastly or Akamai, but you need to set up your own CDN to serve the content delivery network. All right, in addition to that, you are also going to need middleware. Now, the middleware, it sounds fancy, but all it is it's the software that sits in between the e-commerce platform and your PWA. Again, this is a headless implementation, right? Headless just means that you're using a different piece of technology for the front end of the website from the back end of the website. Sounds fancy, it's not that complex. It just means that your front end is handled not by Shopify or BigCommerce or Salesforce or Magento. But you still have to have the head talk to the body, right? And so what sits between the two is middleware. And that's how you go and you get all of your product information and all the other data that's in the e-commerce platform up into your PWA or your whatever your headless, front end is. That's what middleware is. So you need to go and write that, or I think that there's providers that offer middleware. But yeah, it's often custom coded, and you would need engineers to do that. In addition to that, if you want any way to edit any part of your content, right? You want to change images, you want to change text, you want to change a link or a video or whatever, without having to tap your developer every time and have them go, write custom code, you're probably going to want to integrate a headless CMS. A CMS is a content management system. So you go and you'd integrate something like Prismic or Contentful or Sanity, and they're great softwares, but I'll say this, they are very developer-centric. When I first hopped into, Contentful or Prismic, I was like, oh, I bet you it's kind of like Shogun Page Builder, where you can drag and drop and it's a visual thing. It's not so much that way. What CMS means to a developer is more like a schema or groups of content data, right? So it's like you just ingest your images, your text, all of this stuff, and as the developer will write code, will point for where that content should go. So it's not so much like a WYSIWYG editor, what you might be familiar with Shogun Page Builder, Shopify Sections, or whatever page builder or visual builder you use, or even a theming, like a theme builder, right? It's not so much like that. It's different. It's like groups of content. But the cool thing is that way you can change your images and text, and it'll port to that area of the site and update it. And then the last, component, and there's like these kind of 6 primary components, is all your third-party integrations. Let's not forget all of those awesome third-party apps like Yotpo and Klaviyo, whoever else you're using, right? There's a bunch of those third-party apps that you love that have presence on the front end of your site. Well, you need to rewrite those integrations, but you can't do it the normal way, because if you do it the normal way, you'll generate an API call, right? That's an API call is basically your headless, whatever, your build is going to have to go and talk to the third-party app, go talk to Yotpo and say, hey, Yotpo, we're loading this page. There's reviews on it. We need reviews data. And then, Yotpo is going to go and send the reviews data there. But that type of integration with an API call will cause the page to slow down, right? So you have to write middleware for each one of those third-party integrations to pull their data into a content management system on your PWA headless backend, so you don't have to make an API call for the data. You've just got it in your own system, and you can serve it up without having to tap the third-party resource. Okay, hope you all enjoyed that. There's probably some developers on this call right now who are like, that's fantastic. Thank you for explaining that. I know exactly how to do that. I'm going to go set up all that stuff right now. My guess is that for the non-technical folks, and like me included, I'm actually non-technical. My business partner is the technical one. But you're kind of sitting here and you're going, okay, no way. I'm not going to go build all that, because the other thing is, after you build all of it, it's not like you're done at that point. You have to maintain the thing, and you've got third-party software costs, from Prismic or Contentful, and from Fastly or Netlify and what have you. But the project needs to be maintained. You can't just build it and then forget about it. It requires maintenance. So you're going to need a developer on staff, agency on staff, which is fine. It's great. We're big fans of developers and agencies at Shogun, but that's just something to keep in mind. Okay, so that is how PWAs are built, and that is why a lot of folks don't do it. And again, it's tough because doing it has such clear benefit. If you can get your site to load sub-second, we saw, from those case studies that you can see major benefits. That affect conversion rate and affect sales. Okay, so we took all of that complicated, 6 different components and all that stuff, and we productized the whole thing. And it's called Shogun Front End. And it's basically, plug and play. It integrates with your e-commerce platform of choice. You can use Shopify, you can use BigCommerce, you can use Salesforce, Magento, what have you, for your backend. And then you use Shogun Front End for your whole front end. It replaces everything on the front end except for the checkout. That stays with the e-commerce platform with Shopify or BigCommerce and what have you. But other than that, header to footer controls the whole thing, every page. And it's not just what I mentioned in terms of having a PWA output. It certainly has that. It produces this React.js front end that loads sub-second, but it also includes a digital experience manager that is a highly visual, WYSIWYG, what you see is what you get style editor, where you can get a true view look at exactly what the experience is going to look like for, desktop, laptop, tablet, and mobile devices. And, somewhat similar to Page Builder, although a little different. It's more sections based than element based. In addition to the Experience Manager, you also get a very robust content management system, kind of similar to Contentful or Prismic, but natively built into Shogun Front End. And that's great for, let's say you've done some copywriting for some copywriting for a product that shows up or on 27 different pages. It would be a total pain in the butt to have to dig into the Experience Manager and change it in 27 times. So having a content management system is nice because you just hop into the content management system, change it there, ripples throughout the entire site, changes it on all 27 pages. So again, you have a really nice visual experience manager. You have a robust content management system that allows for more powerful management across the site of all of your content. And there is an IDE, a integrated development environment, which is a fancy word for code editor, for developers to go in. And we basically made it as easy to create a progressive web application as is to write a Shopify theme. Just instead of Liquid and CSS is JSX and CSS. And you can go in and write code. And the cool thing is in the IDE, you can then basically wherever there's a text input or an image input or a video input, you can turn that into a codeless field for marketers, merchandisers to go edit content in the Experience Manager. So basically devs can go in and custom code this whole library of reusable sections and components that can then be reused over and over and over again by the non-technical folks inside the Experience Manager and the rest of the software. And so that's what Shogun Front End is. It's an incredibly powerful digital experience platform for the front end that renders as a sub-second progressive web application. Apologies for the shameless plug. So what I will do now is obviously not everyone is going to go for headless or for PWA. It's very robust software. It's a great fit for merchants that are doing several million in annual revenue or more and are growing, but probably is not the best fit for merchants that aren't doing millions. So what can we do then with the traditional site builds? Let's talk about that because I want to be helpful with that as well. Okay, so first thing, go in and diagnose your page speed issues, right? You can use Google PageSpeed Insights to determine your current load time. The number that you want to pay attention most to there, because there's a lot of numbers, is like first contentful paint. That's the first smattering of content that hits the page. That's really what you want to focus on. Don't worry too much about the site speed index and stuff like that. I really just focus on that first contentful paint. In the report that they provide when you run your site in Google PageSpeed Insights, they're going to identify the underlying technical issues that are causing your site to perform poorly. Now, they put them in layman's terms, but really to fix it, you're probably going to want to go ahead and grab those errors and bring them to your developer or your agency to go ahead and implement the fix. But you can actually go and read what the issues are, right? Maybe it's an image format issue that you're using old image formats and you need to convert them to WebP, and you can go and ping your developer and be like, hey, how do we do this? The second thing, besides going and using Google PageSpeed Insights and kind of following the recommendations, is to clean up your code. So excess code in CSS for hidden or partially deleted sections of your website, or also code that's just been written poorly, can can cause added stress to your page load. And why is that? It's because when you have more code, it takes longer for the web page to load, right? The more code, the bigger the page, the longer the load time. So you really want to make sure that your code is neat and efficient. So look out for unused CSS, JavaScript, or HTML files that are being loaded when when customers visit your site. Yeah. So I would just say go and have a developer audit your theme and your code base and do cleanup. And I would also say that one of the biggest things that can cause bloat with theme files and code files are third-party apps. So we'll get to that in a bit. All right, so additional stuff. Use next generation image formats, right? So I think that, in the session that we heard right before this, we learned about how important images are, right? And so you want really high quality images, but if they're not properly formatted, they're good. They're an absolute like page speed killer. So you really want to use format. I think like WebP is like the standard now. But you want to use formats like JPEG 2000, JPEG XR, and they're going to be better than like PNG or JPEG. And where possible, I would try to use WebP. Okay. So in addition to your image formats, I would say implement lazy loading. The idea of lazy loading, if you're not familiar, really simple. It means that it's only going to load what's viewable to your customer on the screen, and then additional objects that are like below that, right, on the page aren't loaded yet, and it's going to load like as it's needed as the scrolling is done, instead of trying to load the whole page at once. So lazy loading will speed up the initial page load of your site by just preventing that unnecessary load. A bit of a plug for Shogun Page Builder, not Shogun Front End, which is the new PWA product, but our Page Builder product. Just so you know, we automatically convert your images to WebP. So you're good there. We use this awesome service called Upload Care to do that. And then we also implement lazy loading automatically. So you're going to get some added benefit there if you're using Shogun Page Builder. And in addition to that, when we're talking about keeping clean code base, Shogun, the way that we engineered it was quite thoughtful in terms of creating a minimal footprint on your theme files, right? If you go and ask a Shogun support person or search in our help docs, you'll learn that we only, I think it's like 6 lines of code in your theme files, something like that you can remove really easily, or you can just ping our support people to remove them. We can remove it in like under 5 minutes. With some applications, including some page builders, they can inject a ton of code into your theme files, or even create additional files, and you end up just a mess. So yeah, I would say and there also are great other builders out there. I'm not just trying to push Shogun Page Builder specifically, but I would say with any type of page builder app or any type of other app that could have that impact, set up a testing store with like a test theme and everything, and go ahead and play around there and just take a peek at your code files and look at what impact it's having, right? And I would say really consider your apps and plugins carefully, because they come with their own set of HTML, CSS, and JavaScript files, right? So with each plugin that you install, you're injecting new files or new code into your theme. And understand that even if you remove them, even with Shogun, if you uninstall an app, we can't go do the code cleanup because we no longer have the permission on Shopify or BigCommerce, right? The uninstall has been done. We can't reach into your files and remove any of the code. And so unfortunately that results and this is the case with any application that you would go and install, it results in ghost code being left there, which is basically unused code that then causes bloat, which causes your page speed to slow down. In addition to adding more code, also when you install apps, some of them require API calls, right? So API calls will also slow down your page speed. Not the case with Shogun Page Builder, right? Because all we're doing is inside of Shopify where there's the sections or pages area, we're just extrapolating that into a builder, but you build in Shogun Page Builder. Then at the end of the day though, when you hit the publish button, it just creates clean SEO readable raw HTML that is hosted and served up by Shopify. So we're not in the load path. So there is no API call to Page Builder. And there's a lot of apps that they're not going to impact your page load, especially the ones that are used for back-end stuff. But some of the ones that are required for front-end stuff, there's going to be an API call generated upon the load. all that to say is just like focus on your essential apps, but don't go installing apps or leaving apps installed that you don't really need. And if you installed an app and you decide that you no longer need it, you might want to take a look or ping your dev to take a look at your theme files and remove any of that unnecessary code. I think we are way over time. So again, to recap, and apologies on that, Derek.
No worries.
All right. Steps you can take to reduce your traditional site load. Again, analyze in Google PageSpeed, clean up your code, use next-gen image formats, implement lazy loading, remove those unnecessary third-party plugins. If you are a really big shop, I would highly recommend you looking at some of those next-generation technologies like PWA, native mobile, and consider whether it makes the most sense for your business. If you're interested in learning about Shogun Front End, shoot us an email, sales@getshogun.com. And of course, if you're interested in trying out Shogun Page Builder, it's really affordable for merchants of all size. And I'm going to go ahead now and share some of the codes here from eCommerce Tech for those.
Perfect. Yeah. So you said if you're really big, what do you think is the either revenue volume or let's say page load volume or website traffic volume that makes the most sense to really get started with PWA?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I would say like if you're doing over 10 million annual revenue, you 100% should be considering it, like hands down, like no brainer.
That
right?
feels a little late.
Yeah. I would say like at the point that you're at like approaching 5 and and your growth is like you're like feeling pretty confident, you should really be strongly considering it. But I would say like you can start taking a peek at whether it makes sense for you between 1 million and 3 million too. It just depends on your growth rate and what your business is. If your business is highly mobile, like 90% plus mobile, then like it's probably going to make a really big difference for you. And if you have a good growth rate, invest.
Can you link us one of your best brands that's using this today? Because I think people need. I want to open up my phone and see it.
Yeah, for sure. So we are still, the software is all built. We can demo and everything. We do have about half a dozen clients, but they're all pre-launch.
Okay.
So there are no live sites on Shogun Front End yet. We do have some really cool ones coming in the next like month or two.
So, yeah, send me one when you're ready. We'll share it out with everybody because I want to just like, in fact, we need a before after. Record the load speed today and then like record it after.
Oh, yeah.
And I want to see this. I'm excited to see it in action because I mean it happens to me pretty much every day where I'm frustrated with something not loading fast enough. Whether I'm breaking my mouse or my phone, it depends on if I'm on the go or not. But it's really it's just known to increase conversion rate and improve that customer experience. So it's just about timing it with your business.
Yep. And to Jonathan, it's actually a completely separate piece of software, and it's not actually in the Shopify app store. It's a much larger. I don't want to say enterprise because I think that automatically that scares people, but it's a much bigger piece of software than Shogun Page Builder.
Yeah, and I think you can find it at getshogun.com/front end to learn a little bit more. Awesome, Nick. Thank you so much. We're going to move right into our next session.
Thank you.